Chapter 1. An Ordinary Day. The McDonald's signs blink dully in the winter rain as Jonas steps through the door. His eyes narrow at the sound of children running around screaming between the tables, while parents glare over their phones. Already he has that familiar crease in his forehead, the one that makes most employees wish they had the day off today. Jonas pushes his way up to the counter, his steps heavy with irritation. He has already decided that his Big Mac must not be lukewarm this time. And if it is, they are damn well going to hear about it. Behind the counter stands Emma, a new girl with long, glossy blonde hair, only 19 years old, still wearing that nervous smile that only new hires have. Her gaze flickers between the menu boards and the register, but she tries to be polite. "Yes, how can I help you?" she asks in a voice far too bright for the grayness of the day. "You can start by smiling a little less fake and just taking my order," Jonas replies, drumming his fingers irritably on the counter. "A Big Mac meal. The biggest cola you've got. Fries not soggy this time, thanks. And no onions if you're actually capable of that." Emma swallows hard but nods silently, her fingers dancing nervously over the buttons. An older coworker glances over but says nothing. Everyone knows it's best to just get him out as quickly as possible. Jonas gets his tray, grabs the bag without a glance, and snarls, "Finally." He spins on his heel and pushes through the crowd. Children's laughter pricks at his ears. A little girl, cheeks red from running, bumps into him on her way to the play area. "Hey, sorry," she says quickly, but Jonas's face darkens. "Watch where you're going. Someone should teach you how to walk properly," he growls. She hurries off but glances back briefly and meets a stare that could boil a dandelion. Jonas drops heavily into a corner booth. He unwraps the food, stares down at the greasy Big Mac, takes a big bite, and immediately realizes the fries are too soft. Of course. But this time he says nothing. His mouth feels dry. There's a twinge in his temple. Not anger, but something strange, faint, as if the air has grown thicker. The cola tastes different, sweeter, and more sour at the same time. The sounds become oddly distant, as if someone has stuffed cotton between him and the world. Jonas tries to shake it off, but he stays seated longer than usual. His hands feel cold, and for the first time in a long while, it's as if no one is really noticing him. A peculiar dizziness creeps up from his stomach, but he refuses to show anything outwardly. He rubs his eyes, stares out over the restaurant. The children seem farther away now, the voices blending into a low hum, and his own thoughts begin to circle endlessly. Jonas senses that something is wrong, but he can't put words to it yet. Chapter 2, The Floor. Jonas stares down at his hands. At first, he doesn't understand it. They look wrong. The fingers are shorter, the palms narrower. The sleeves of his jacket still cling tightly around his wrists, but the fabric seems thicker, heavier, as if the world has grown, or as if he has shrunk. His heart slams once, then once more. He breathes quickly and looks again, this time more clearly. The edge of the table, which had been at chest height before, now rises like a wall. The food tray looks enormous, the French fries like yellow beams. The plastic lid on the cola is wider than his head. No, he whispers, his voice already thinner, weaker. He tries to stand up, but it's too late. The chair slides away from him, feels like a mountain tipping over, and the next moment he falls. Not far, but hard. The floor hits him with a dull thud that should have drawn attention, but no one reacts. Jonas lies on his back. The floor is cold, smooth, greasy from shoes and spilled soda. He rolls onto his stomach, presses his hands against the tiles and looks around. Everything is enormous. Children's legs are pillars pounding against the floor, shoes like black and colorful cliffs slamming down with heavy thuds. Table legs tower like steel masts. Voices are loud, distorted, blending into a constant wall of sound. He is no taller than 6 or 7 centimeters. Panic explodes inside him. "This is a dream," he mutters desperately and pinches his arm. The pain is sharp, real. He gasps. No. His thoughts spiral. The virus, the stories he had laughed at, people who suddenly disappeared became small, hidden away in the news. He had mocked them, called them idiots, liars. "It can't be me," he whispers, "not me." The floor trembles faintly, not an earthquake. Footsteps. He looks up. Emma. She is walking between the tables, tray in her hands, brow furrowed. She looks confused, as if something feels wrong, but she doesn't know what. Each of her steps sends small shocks through the floor, vibrations that run through Jonas's body. "Hey," he shouts, his voice thin as a child's scream. "Help! Here, see me!" The sound is swallowed. Children scream and laugh. A ball hits a table. A chair scrapes against the floor. Emma turns her head slightly, as if she heard something, but keeps walking. "Wait!" Jonas starts running. His legs pump with everything they have. The tiles are slick and enormous. The distance between the tables feels like kilometers. He screams again, his voice breaking, but she just moves farther away. An adult human at normal speed is unreachable for a body only a few centimeters tall. He stops, stands gasping, chest burning, lungs screaming for air. His poor fitness makes it worse. His vision flickers. Then it happens. A group of children, girls laughing, running, not looking down, come straight toward him. Jonas's blood freezes. Shoes hammer against the floor. One wrong step and he's finished. He throws himself to the side, rolls, feels the air pressure from a shoe passing just centimeters from his head. Another lands so close the wind knocks him backward. "No, no, no!" He runs in zigzags. Trips, gets up. The floor shakes harder now. Chaos from above. He spots a table. Salvation. He dives underneath it, heart pounding, and crawls farther in, into the shadows, dust and food scraps. His hands touch something soft, a paper bag. He presses himself inside, hides, curls up. The walls of the bag muffle the sound a little, but not enough. Footsteps, voices, laughter. Life above continues, unaware. Jonas sits trembling in the darkness. "It's a dream," he repeats again and again, his voice barely more than a whisper. It has to be a dream, but the floor is still vibrating, and the world is far too big. Chapter 3. Between the Shadows. Jonas sits for a long time, slumped inside the bag, while life above him drums on in an echo of footsteps, laughter, and noise. Time feels strange. In the darkness, he can no longer see the shadows moving across the floor, only hear the random thuds of shoes and the faint rocking tremors each time someone moves. After 20 minutes, the fear is replaced by something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or a tired resignation. He has to get out, has to see whether anyone has noticed him, or whether it will all simply disappear if he refuses to be afraid. He carefully pushes at the edge of the bag and sneaks out. The air tastes of fryer oil and cleaning chemicals. The space is open now, his field of vision flattening into a landscape of chair legs and discarded napkins. Every movement makes the floor vibrate. Even the smallest footsteps become tiny earthquakes. Jonas hates it. He hates feeling how the world keeps going as if he doesn't exist. He crawls in between the tables and looks up. Everything is large and distorted. Giant plastic trays are carried around above his head, and children's voices thunder through the room like lightning from the sky. He grits his teeth. Why him? Why Jonas? He feels anger and mockery bubbling up, remnants of the old Jonas, before everything became huge and hostile. He stares toward the counter. Out there at human height, Emma stands with the others. Jonas's gaze locks onto a man, tall, gaunt, with a narrow, angry face. He is shouting at the girl behind the register, scolding her over something as small as the wrong soda. Jonas can't hear the words, but he sees it in her body, how she shrinks inward yet keeps smiling. It dawns on him that he has seen that look before, seen the way people turn away when he himself stood there, throwing words at them. He has been like that man. No, worse. The anger in his chest slowly gives way to a lump of guilt and sadness, growing heavy. Hours pass. Customers come and go. He sees more of the same kind, both men and women, hurling insults at the employees, kicking chairs, throwing trays. Emma always smiles, as if she is made of something they cannot touch. Jonas stares. He can't understand it. For the first time, he feels small in another way. He can't help thinking about all the times he did the same. How easy it was to shout when you knew no one could really answer back. Darkness begins to creep in from the windows. The restaurant slowly empties. The noise fades, and now only a few guests remain. The staff collects trash, straightens tables. Jonas sits between the table legs, hidden in the growing shadows, staring out into the vast, cold room. For the first time, he hopes that someone will find him, if only to hear his voice. Chapter 4. Faces seen from below. Jonas hadn't noticed when exhaustion had overtaken him. The long day, the fear, his body pushed past its limits, all of it blended into a heavy sleep beneath the table's shadow. He wakes with a start when something heavy lands nearby, legs dropping to the floor. A pair of large white sneakers, so clean he can see his reflection in the rubber. He gasps, presses himself closer to the table leg, afraid of being discovered. Then he looks up. It's Emma. She sits hunched forward, elbows resting on her thighs, her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders shake. He hears a sniffle. She's crying. Really crying. Not just a single sigh, but small, hoarse sounds slipping out as she tries to stay quiet. Jonas is struck with shock. All day he has seen her smiling behind the counter, standing tall under other people's anger, his included. He has watched her swallow insults as if she were made of something unbreakable. But now, he sees her as she truly is, tired, worn down, broken inside. He crawls a little farther forward, closer, without knowing why, as if drawn toward something he himself helped cause. From his low vantage point, her face is gigantic. Tears trace shining lines down her cheeks. He watches them hit her hands and disappear. Suddenly, the silence is broken by a clear, cheerful voice. Emma! A little girl, maybe 7 years old, comes running. Her shoes clap against the tiles, her hair is tied into pigtails, and she swings a small teddy bear in her hand. Jonas freezes, but Emma straightens her back and quickly wipes her eyes, forced back into the role everyone expects of her. Hi, Ida, she replies, her voice trembling but trying to sound cheerful. Ida stops in front of her and looks curiously at her sister. Why are you crying? Who's been mean to you again? She scoots closer, tilts her head, and looks at Emma with a mix of concern and childlike wonder. Emma smiles a tired smile, one that barely reaches her eyes. There are just some people who don't think about the fact that I'm a person too, that it can hurt when they shout and scold, but there are kind people as well, just not always. Jonas sits completely still. His body feels heavy, his chest tight with shame. He feels the words crawl under his skin. For the first time, he understands how his own actions have been part of the burden Emma carries. It feels as if something old and wrong is scraping loose inside him. Ida looks at Emma, eyes wide and serious. Why don't you just work somewhere else? Where people are nice? Emma sighs and strokes her sister's hair. It's not always that simple, Ida. You can't just choose. I need the money so you can go to gymnastics and get your books. It'll be okay. I just need to breathe sometimes. Jonas lowers his head even more. He hears everything now. Children laughing somewhere, the smells from the fryer, clinking dishes. But more than anything, he hears himself. Voices from the past, shouting and complaining, thrown at girls like Emma, at people he never saw as more than name tags and wrong orders. It cuts into him. He hides again in the shadow under the table, but this time not out of fear, out of shame. For the first time, he feels that something has truly changed. Chapter 5, Ida Emma fixes her hair, picks up her jacket, and smiles at Ida. I'll go get some food so we can head home to Mom and Dad. Ida nods, sits down at the table with her teddy bear, and swings her legs back and forth. Jonas retreats deeper into the shadows, still shaken. He feels the heavy, empty sensation settling over him like a veil, shame and sorrow blending in his thoughts. Suddenly, Ida loses her grip on the teddy bear. It slips from her lap and drops straight down onto Jonas with a soft yet crushing thump. He gasps. Even something as innocent as a stuffed toy can be overwhelming for someone who doesn't even reach the height of an adult's thumb. Before he can get away, Ida bends down to pick up the bear, but her gaze catches something else. Her eyes widen in surprise, and then, without hesitation, she gently closes her fingers around him. Jonas feels her skin, warm and alive, but also unimaginably strong. He is lifted up, sees the world sway past until he is face to face with her, almost pressed against her huge childlike eyes. Ida stares at him, confusion written clearly across her face. What kind of toy are you? She asks, her voice filled with wonder. Jonas gathers himself and answers hoarsely, I'm not a toy. I became small. I was a grown man before. Ida, please help me. Ida stares at him intently. Then realization crosses her face, and suddenly she smiles broadly, almost fascinated. Are you one of those with that weird virus? The ones my mom says you have to be careful with? Jonas feels a strange sense of relief at being recognized. Yes, I'm one of them. My name is Jonas. You really have to help me, Ida. But her expression changes abruptly. Her eyes narrow, the smile disappears, and she holds him a little tighter, almost too tight. She tilts her head and looks as if she suddenly remembers something important. Jonas? She whispers. Are you that Jonas? She squeezes him harder, enough that it almost hurts. I was here once when you yelled at my sister, she says quietly, her voice cutting through him. I was sitting right there. You were so angry because you didn't get enough soda. You said mean things to her. She apologized, but you didn't listen. You just yelled more. And then you left without saying thank you, even though she hurried for you. Jonas feels her hand tighten even more around his body. He tries to say something, but his voice breaks under the pressure. Ida's face is suddenly not childishly curious, but adult in its seriousness, her eyes dark with something he never expected to find in a child. You're a bad man, Jonas, she whispers, almost hissing. I don't like people who are mean to my sister. She cried a lot when she came home. She always said she just had to get better at her job. But it wasn't her fault, was it? It was yours. Jonas tries again to explain, his voice desperate. I was just angry that day. I didn't mean it. I was stupid. But Ida isn't listening anymore. Her small hand clenches around him, not hard enough to crush him, but enough to show him that he no longer has any power. For the first time, it is him who is completely at someone else's mercy, left to another's judgment. He sees her face close to his, every movement in her eyes enormous and impossible to escape. In her grip, in the shadow of a child's anger, Jonas understands it fully. He can never take the words back. Not from Emma, not from Ida, not from anyone. He is no longer just small in body, but small in the world. Chapter 6. Shadows, Pain, and Truth. Ida's fingers feel like iron hooks around Jonas's tiny body. She presses him into her palm, unaware of her own strength, driven by childish righteousness and sorrow for her sister. Jonas tries to scream, but his voice is too weak. The pain slices through his chest. He feels his ribs give way, the air vanishing. You're stupid. You must never hurt my sister again. Ida's voice is sharp, mixed with anger and tears, as she squeezes him even harder, as if she can press the guilt out of him. Jonas's vision flickers. He fights just to breathe, feels his consciousness starting to slip. Suddenly, in the middle of the chaos, another voice cuts through, soft but firm. Ida, stop! Put him down! Jonas feels a jolt. The pressure eases. He slips from Ida's grip and falls. But before he hits the floor hard, he is caught by another pair of hands. They are larger, warmer, gentler. His vision clears, and he looks up into Emma's face. Eyes wide with shock and worry, skin pale and damp with sweat. Ida, what were you thinking? You must never do something like that. Emma's voice trembles, but it is firm. Ida shrinks back, clutching her teddy bear, eyes shiny with tears. But it was him. He made you cry. I just didn't want you to be sad again. Emma kneels in front of her little sister and pulls her into a hug. You're a good girl, Ida. But this isn't how we solve things. He must not hurt you or me. But it's not your job to punish anyone. Jonas feels the world flutter before his eyes. He wants to say something, maybe shout at Ida, maybe thank Emma, but everything turns black. The pain in his legs grows, and he drifts out of consciousness like a small broken leaf in a storm. He wakes up slowly. The light is white, harsh, clinical. Jonas blinks, looks around. He is lying in a bed, not a gigantic one, but a bed his size, the sheets rustling beneath his small body. His legs are wrapped in white bandages, throbbing with pain, and he can only weakly wiggle his toes. He tries to sit up, but his legs protest. Ow! He squeaks, surprised by how weak his voice sounds. The room is sterile, strange. Everything is adapted for small people, perhaps a separate section of a hospital. Children's drawings are taped to the wall, and a window lets gray daylight stream in. At the other end of the room, Emma sits in a chair, curled up, her face half hidden in her hands. Her hair has fallen loose around her cheek, and she looks like she hasn't slept in a long time. She rubs her eyes, looks up, and quickly stands, clearly relieved to see Jonas awake. She kneels by the bed so her face doesn't completely dominate him. Her eyes are red, her voice fragile and nervous. Jonas, I'm so sorry. Ida, she didn't know how strong she is when she gets angry. She didn't mean it. It wasn't on purpose. She just wanted to protect me. Jonas feels anger and despair twist together inside him. He wants to shout, wants to tell her that Ida could have killed him, that he still hurts, that it isn't fair. He looks at Emma's face. The exhaustion, the shame, the fear of his reaction, everything is written plainly there. She pleads, please don't tell anyone. I told the doctors that we both fell, that I found you like that. I don't want Ida to get into trouble. She's just a child. She didn't understand what she was doing. She was only thinking about me. Jonas feels the weight in the room. Fate teeters. He could report it. He could tell the truth and get revenge. But then he looks at Emma and sees how she holds herself together, protecting her little sister the way she protects everyone else, even those who hurt her. He swallows hard. His thoughts race back. Everything he has done to Emma, everything that led to a child being able to squeeze the life out of him without understanding how much words can hurt. Emma begs, "Please don't say anything, Jonas. You don't have to forgive her. But she's my family." Jonas sighs, looks away, feels the pain throb in his legs. The words are heavy, but he can't bring himself to refuse. "I won't say anything," he murmurs. "But only because she's your sister, and because maybe I've hurt people too much myself." Emma nods, a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. "Thank you. I promise she'll never come near you again. And I'm sorry, Jonas, for everything." A strange bond forms in the silence between them, something fragile but real. Jonas sinks back into the pillow, exhausted but relieved. He thinks about everything that has happened, and for the first time in the cold hospital light, he feels the faint beginning of change. Chapter 7, A Slightly Bigger Man. Jonas stares up at the sterile hospital lights. The silence around him feels almost kind. No pounding footsteps, no cold stares, just a room where, for the first time in a long while, he can hear his own thoughts clearly. The pain in his legs still throbs, but inside something has begun to loosen. Emma is still sitting by his bed. Her hands rest on her knees, and she rocks slightly back and forth, as if she doesn't quite know what to do with herself. She looks like she wants to say something, but Jonas speaks first. "Emma?" His voice is weak, but calmer than before. "I'm sorry. Not just for what happened today, but for everything I've said to you and the others. I saw you today, how you always smile, even when people yell. I also saw myself the way I was, and I didn't like what I saw. I never thought about how much it actually matters." He pauses, letting the words settle between them as Emma's expression softens. She opens her mouth to reply, but Jonas continues quickly, almost shyly. "If you go to my company, Tesla, the big dealership out by the ring road, and say you know Jonas, I'll make sure you and your coworkers get a proper reward for saving me, not just today, but for everything." Emma stares at him in astonishment, as if she can't quite understand who he has become. "You don't have to give me money, Jonas. I just did what was right." Jonas shrugs, a small, crooked smile on his face, one she has never seen before. "Maybe, but let's just call it a tip. I don't care. I just want to do something good for you and the others. It feels right." Emma sits quietly for a moment. Her eyes grow shiny and she quickly wipes a tear away with the back of her hand. "Thank you, Jonas. I don't think you understand how much that means. I'll tell the others." Jonas feels warmth growing inside him. He has never been good with emotions, but right now there is a lightness in his body he can hardly remember ever feeling before. It's as if the whole world breathes a little easier, just because he did one thing right. Emma stands up and gently squeezes his small hand with her finger. "You should rest. I'll come by again if that's okay." "That would be nice," Jonas replies, almost surprised by his own honesty. She smiles, turns, and leaves, and he follows her with his eyes. The room grows quiet again, broken only by a nurse who enters with a small tray. A glass of water, some mashed food adapted to his size, a friendly nod. Jonas thanks her softly, eats slowly, and feels the tiredness take over. He looks out the window, where the evening sun paints the sky orange, and feels that even though he is small, his world has grown larger. He sinks back into the pillow, his body relaxed for the first time in days. He thinks of Emma, of Ida, of everything old, and of the new person he might become. Jonas falls asleep with a faint smile on his lips. Chapter 8, A New Valued Thing. Days turn into weeks at the hospital. Jonas's world is now framed by sterile walls, the scent of hand sanitizer, and the constant hum of machines. The pain in his legs has shifted from burning to a heavy, exhausting throb. The staff is kind, kinder than he often feels he deserves. And he has grown used to waking up in his custom-made bed, eating food cut into tiny pieces, and watching the world pass by outside through a window that feels enormous. One morning, there is a light knock on the door. 2 men and a woman step inside, all wearing suits with discreet Tesla logos embroidered on their chests. Their faces are serious, but there is also a hint of respect Jonas has never seen from his own employees before. He looks up from his bed, suddenly aware of how small he is compared to them, not just physically, but in other ways too. The oldest man steps closer, bending slightly so they are at eye level. "Jonas," he says kindly, "we've discussed what we can do for Emma and her coworkers. The entire office has been talking about it. It puts things into perspective that it could have been you who was affected. We've decided to pay a reward to Emma, 10,000 euros. The same amount will be distributed among the rest of the restaurant's employees. But we thought that might not be enough." Jonas nods, feeling a stab of humility. "That sounds good, but it can't just be money. People need to know what they did, how important it was. Can't we do something so people start thinking about how they treat those behind the counter?" The younger woman smiles. "We've already contacted the press, but we intend to protect your privacy. We'll simply say that Emma helped one of our executives in an emergency situation and that her courage, kindness, and responsibility deserve recognition." Jonas feels warmth spread through him. "Do it, and tell Emma that I'll never forget it, and that everyone else should learn from it too." They stay for a while, talking through details. Jonas, still lying in his small bed, feels for the first time in weeks like an important part of something bigger. He is given the chance to write a personal letter to Emma and her team, a letter that is read aloud to the entire staff the next day, when Tesla officially presents the reward to the McDonald's employees. Meanwhile, the story grows. Local and national news outlets pick it up, but no one knows the full truth. Journalists call the restaurant, and it ends with Emma being interviewed on TV, sitting a bit nervously but smiling as she talks about the day she and her team helped a customer in distress. Not a word is mentioned about Jonas's size or what really happened. But the whole country sees a young woman praising her coworkers, insisting that every day they help people, even when they themselves are shouted at or treated badly. A university expert comments on TV, "Human decency costs nothing. We can all learn from the way Emma meets people, especially in a time when the differences between us are only becoming more visible." Online, the comment sections explode. Many praise Emma, some question the details, but most focus on the fact that someone was finally seen, not as an insignificant employee, but as a human being. Emma and her coworkers receive flowers delivered to the restaurant, letters of thanks, and more locals stop by to praise the staff. Jonas watches it all from his hospital window. He follows the news, sees Emma's face light up on the screen, sees her coworkers smile in surprise, sees a country, if only for a moment, pause and acknowledge people it usually looks straight through. He knows his role is hidden, that people will never know the whole truth. But that's okay, because what matters isn't what happened, but how people chose to act afterward. When a nurse comes in with his dinner, she asks with a crooked smile, "So how does it feel to have changed the world a little, Jonas?" Jonas smiles faintly. "Just a bit more human, I think." He knows he isn't done apologizing, but he also knows he has begun to grow, not in body, but in mind. Chapter 9. Farewell and Beginnings. The days at the hospital now pass in calm, gentle rhythms. Jonas feels the pain in his legs easing a little more each day. He grows stronger, can sit up in bed, and the doctors talk about him being discharged soon. The nurses have grown used to speaking to him like any other patient, not just as one of the small ones, but as Jonas, the man who once filled a room and is now trying to find his place again. One morning, as he sits flipping through a newspaper about the miracle at McDonald's, there's a gentle knock on the door. Before he can answer, it opens, and Emma steps inside, her light hair pulled back into a ponytail. Behind her, half hidden by the doorframe, stands Ida, clutching her worn teddy bear tightly to her chest. Her eyes dart around, and she rocks on her toes, clearly nervous. Emma smiles warmly at Jonas, and he feels the old knot in his stomach fade, replaced by something soft and familiar. "Hi, Jonas," she says quietly. "I just wanted to stop by and say a proper goodbye before you're discharged, and there's someone who wants to say something to you." Ida steps forward hesitantly. She doesn't look up at first, her small hands twisting the teddy bear's ears over and over. Finally, she looks at Jonas, her gaze full of apology and fear of not being forgiven. "I'm sorry, Jonas," she says, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know I could hurt you so much. I was just so angry and scared that you would make Emma sad again. I promise I'll never do that again. Will you forgive me?" She stretches a small chocolate bar toward his bed, her way of saying it, with the only thing she has. Jonas looks at her. He feels a twinge of the old pain, but it quickly fades, drowned out by her sincere eyes and the way she clings to her teddy bear. He smiles faintly, reaches out, and gently takes the chocolate. "Of course I forgive you, Ida. You just wanted to protect your sister. It was never my intention for her to be hurt, or for you to become so angry. Thank you for your apology." Ida lights up. Emma wraps an arm around her, and Jonas watches them standing there together. Two sisters, stronger than he has ever been. Emma leans down slightly toward Jonas's bed and whispers, "When you're out of here, I'll send you a Big Mac meal, only if you promise not to complain about onions or cold fries." Jonas laughs, a real warm laugh for the first time in what feels like forever. "Deal. I won't complain. I promise." They talk for a while about everything and nothing, about school, about work, about how some things will never be normal again, but that doesn't mean they can't be good. Ida talks about her class, Emma about her coworkers, and Jonas listens, feeling connected to something real for the first time. When they leave, Ida turns around in the doorway, waves with her teddy bear, and says, "Goodbye, Jonas. Remember the chocolate? It helps with bad moods." Emma smiles, winks, and promises to stay in touch. "See you, Jonas. You'll be okay." A few weeks later, Jonas is back at his first day of work at the Tesla dealership. Everything is different. His desk has been rebuilt, the keyboard custom made, the screen towering like a wall in front of him. His old colleagues greet him, some with curiosity, others with warmth. One employee, a young woman from detailing, stops by with coffee in a miniature cup, and they both laugh at how absurd the world can be. Everything is difficult. He can no longer walk over to people. They have to come to him. The phone is a challenge. Paperwork takes twice as long, and customers look at him with mixed expressions. Some ask if he now has special advantages, others offer to help, and sometimes on bad days, people whisper behind his back. But Jonas tries anyway. He takes one customer at a time, finds new ways to advise, learns to ask for help. Every day, he reminds himself that it is better to be small in body and big in heart than the other way around. In the evening, when he sits alone in his small apartment, he opens the chocolate from Ida, takes a bite, and smiles. He doesn't know what the future will bring. He only knows that he will face it with everything he has learned, and hope that one day he can do as much good for others as Emma and Ida did for him.